And on today's podcast, we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to give you a concrete formula to easily and effectively get rid of your sexual shame.
We get that wading through your shame and guilt is not a priority, yet this is important because it's impossible to create the sex life that you want with a lifetime of unresolved guilt and shame anchoring you down. If you haven't already listened to the 2 episodes on micro shames and big shames, you definitely want to listen to those before you dive into this one with us. I like to think of these 3 episodes as the trifecta to finally kicking shame to the curb, but you need all 3 to make it happen.
So the whole point of this podcast is to give everybody listening permission to say it's okay to bring out your shameful thoughts. And in fact, in the Sensational Sex Podcast community, we're a safe space for you to share your shameful thoughts. And I always find that when somebody is brave enough to share their shameful thought, it's like a domino effect where other women are like, oh my gosh, I feel that too. And not only that, but I also feel this way. And suddenly we're opening up and, I think that's where the power lies is when you feel safe to explain what's going on with you and other people are saying, you know what, I get it. And it's not that bad.
I think that everyone has this idea in their mind of the sex that everyone else is having, right? They're having more sex, they're having better sex, they're having longer sex, they're having more pleasurable sex, they're having kinkier sex. They're having all of these different things, and then looking at your own desires, your own sex life, your own wants, or maybe you were raised thinking that, sex should always just be vanilla, missionary, 1, 2, 3, roll over and go to bed, and you want to be tied up in some handcuffs or something like that. And that's bringing you a lot of shame because only weird, freaky people do that, right? And once you bring this to light, once you are able to speak about it, and recognize that there's such a beautiful wide variety of sexual expression between consenting adults. And as long as everyone's participating in an enthusiastic consent way, then the door is wide open and there's a lot of fun to be had. This is the part of the podcast where we're going to put on our sexologist hats. And we are going to break down the 6-step shame smashing formula.
So step number 1 is identify a negative memory.
Writing down all of your shameful memories in one sitting is virtually impossible, but you must work your way up to mining those especially dark, deeply buried emotions. While you are identifying what you feel, you might experience some resistance and you might want to stop because it feels uncomfortable and you don't like feeling these emotions.
So the point of naming your shame is allow yourself to feel your negative emotions, and it's not going to feel good.
If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed as you're going through this process because these negative emotions are coming up, they don't feel good, your natural inclination is to try to just put them away again because that's, again, our brain protecting ourselves. Tell yourself, I can manage this, and at the first opportunity, I promise to take care of what's wrong.
However, if a negative emotion does stay stuck, break down the memory to understand why it's looping inside your head and not going away. The stickier the memory, the stronger the negative emotion's hold has over you.
Ask yourself why. The answer might not present itself immediately, but eventually your subconscious is going to give you an answer. Step 3 is to detach and forgive. It's time to detach from each memory's shame, stigma, and emotional charge.
So think of detaching and forgiving like lancing a boil. It's allowing all the poison that has festered for however long in your body to leave.
Self-compassion and emotional care are a big part of your success here.
And sometimes that means you need to forgive yourself and to forgive others. Moving on to step number 4, which is to share your shame.
Opening up and telling someone what you're ashamed of is your most powerful tool for stopping shame dead in its tracks. Shame thrives in the darkness.
It does. So you need to start with a small shame and tell someone that you feel safe with what you've experienced and how you feel.
Yes. Opening up about the things that we feel ashamed about can be challenging, but that is also the point, to no longer let the shame silence you. An example of this is when I shared with my husband how frustrated I was with feeling like it was taking my body too long. I felt like, he was doing these different things to try to get me turned on, and I was in my head and I was like, oh, it's taking too long, and why doesn't this feel good? And I feel bad for him, and I feel bad, and like, why am I broken? And all of these things that were going through my head in that moment. And I did that for years, and I never shared that with him. And one day I finally told him, I said, you know what, James, sometimes I don't even know how long it is, but the first 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, like the things that you're doing they're just kind of, like, I don't feel much. They aren't very pleasurable. Sometimes they're even mildly irritating. And I feel like there's something wrong with me. And he looked at me and he said, I'm doing that on purpose. He thought, or what he was trying to do in that moment was tease my body and extend the experience out for me. And he thought that was like a really wonderful, pleasurable thing that he was doing for me. And I, on the flip side, was like, oh my gosh, why is it taking me so long? My body's taking so long. My orgasm's taking so long. Da, 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 da. And when we finally had that conversation, then we were able, and I understood what he was doing, then it just dissipated that. I said, okay, this is not my body taking so long. This is like my partner like playing with me and having fun. And that completely changed the experience for me.
So can I ask you, when you shared that with your husband, what was his reaction? Like, was he angry? Was he upset? Was he like nonplussed by it? Like, what was his? I think a lot of people don't want to share because they're scared of what reaction they're going to get from the other person.
He was shocked / surprised, but not in a negative way. I think he was confused that I thought something was wrong. He was surprised when I was saying that, at least for a little while, things, it's not that they didn't feel good, but it just takes it takes a while. It takes me
Sometimes
a long time.
It takes a moment to get into things, for sure.
I'm a sexologist. It takes my body a long time. This is not just you. This is me as well. And, but no, he wasn't angry at all. And he reassured me. He reassured me that part of what he was doing was teasing. I also shared with him in that moment that sometimes I do like the longer extended teasing sessions, but sometimes I might need him to get to the point a little bit faster. And so, and what that has turned into is we'll have conversations, if we know that we're going to be, going into the bedroom, he'll say, do we want to extend the playtime a little bit, or do we want to, or do we want to get right to it? And just depending on the day, my mood, whether the kids are awake or asleep or here or whatever, then, I can share sort of a little bit more of what I'm in the mood for. And that, of course, is more communication. And then that gets me what I would like.
Wow. And just to your point, Amy, step number 5 is to celebrate. And I want you to celebrate what you just did with your husband, which is communicate your sexual needs, which is like the whole point of this entire podcast, is being able to explain to your partner what you need, and your partner saying, oh, okay, well, good. Then let's just do it that way. Like, it can be that easy.
Do not skip the celebration part, because when you celebrate, you're reinforcing that you just did something hard. And this isn't easy. Step 6 is repeat this process. You're going to return to step 1 and work through the next shame on your list. I think as you go through this, the first one is going to be the hardest. The second one hopefully will be a little bit easier. The third one will be a little bit easier.
Find out this and so much more by subscribing to the Sensational Sex Podcast. And please grab our free gift to you. Links will be in the description. And if you like this podcast, then make sure to check out this next one coming up.